There we go. We have hit record. We're not doing no fancy intro. Well, here we can do just a little baby one.
This is Carmel Bear, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
Thank you, Carmel Bear, you breathy bastard. Today is July 27th, 2022. I am Garlic. That is Josh. We're podcasting. Ta-da. Another summer pod. We don't give a shit about this time of year. We're just trying to do it so we don't get really, really bad at this. I don't know. We don't really have segments for today. I mean, the one thing I want to bring up, because it's making the news right now, it's very topical as of today, so anyone who listens to this within the next couple days. But Josh, this is breaking news. It might startle you. It might make you uncomfortable. It might do a bunch of things to your emotions that you didn't even know was possible. But as quoted from Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah from an interview in May, breaking news, Josh, Kirk Cousins is, in fact, not Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, just in case you're wondering. All the news segments have picked it up either yesterday or today. Just in case you didn't know, Kirk Cousins is not Tom Brady. How's that make you feel?
I feel like I got a whole bunch of stuff to go return to Target now.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's from, I think the full article just came out, but the quote is from an interview in May, and Kwesi was like, yeah, I just got this GM job. I was trying to think about what to do with QB. We all know, or I don't even think he said we all know, but he was like, yeah, by the way, Kirk Cousins is not Tom Brady. Kirk Cousins is not Patrick Mahomes. And it's really, really hard to get a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes, so what do you do? Is basically what he was saying. And so I don't think the quote was that controversial, but, you know, news media got a news media. They got to ride the wave of there's really not any news just yet. So everyone's picking it up and it's being played everywhere. So I don't know.
Yeah. And here I thought you were going to come out and say, you know, found out Kyler Murray can't read, so now you need a tutor.
I mean, do you want to talk about that? That's not a little topical thing. I mean, we're just free balling this podcast. Kyler Murray's got a study hall clause in his contract. He has to do 4 hours a day or so many hours a week, whatever it was.
Yeah, something like that.
9 million tied to it or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
I thought it was because I listened to McAfee yesterday, and I guess if I wasn't like intently listening, but I thought that there was a more. I thought it was all of it. Like $100 million could be voided just because he doesn't fulfill his side of the deal.
That's possible.
Which I think would be, I would watch 4 hours of film a day if somebody paid me, you know, $100 million.
Just a quick hunch mill.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's nice to be talented. Like they were saying on the show yesterday, if he's done what he has, without studying, it's kind of embarrassing for the rest of the league. But at the same time, they talked about his record after. So I guess somebody put together his record after the new Call of Duty drops each year, yeah. And it goes from like it like inverses. It's like 7-2, 7-2, and then. Or like 7 wins, 6 wins, 5 wins before, and then 1 win, 2 win after. It's crazy.
It was fucking adorable, dude. I love that little graph. Call of Duty confirmed is tanking Kyler Murray's career. I don't even know how to respond to that perfectly, but yeah, it was bizarre. It was bizarre to see, bizarre to read. But yeah, Kyler Murray got a contract. Kirk Cousins is not Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. I know a lot of people were concerned. They were thinking about it. But yeah, just the way she goes. All right, Josh.
Have we heard what the Butthole Bandit suspension is yet?
The Butthole Bandit? No, there's been no about Deshaun Watson. There's no confirmed any they've said anywhere from 2 games to all season. Alvin Kamara, there's no word on that suspension. DeAndre's got 4 games or 6 games or something.
6.
Yeah.
And then Calvin Ridley, that bastard, throwing $1,000 down on a bet.
And he picked the Falcons to win, of all things. He didn't even throw. He wasn't shaving. He wasn't Paul Crewe out here, longest yard, shaving points. He picked the Falcons to win.
Wasn't it like a donation bet too?
I don't know about that. I can't confirm that. We should speculate, Josh. Are we no worse than the media we were just criticizing moments ago?
I feel like it was going towards sick puppies or something like that, and Roger Goodell said no. I'm the one making them sick.
Go fuck yourself. Those are my sick puppies. That's my hobby. I've always kind of thought to myself, Roger Goodell is one sick puppy, so it all makes sense. But do you want to get right into it, Josh? You want to roll?
See.
All right. So last year, I'll give the background, and then you can give kind of the new fresh face we spun on it. But last year, in our July pod, we did like some way too early July redraft Fave Farves. So we did Fave Farv. So 4 different categories with 4 different players in each. And last year, how we did it was we did 2 good categories and 2 bad categories. It was like, because the top 36 ADP are all supposed to be studs, right? Like that's why their ADP is so high. If you're taking a player in the first 3 rounds, they should be in the first 3 rounds. It should be a pretty sure thing. And so one of our categories was like players we're avoiding in the top 36, and then another one was reaches, which was a good category. Players we're avoiding in the mid rounds, and then some sleepers, players you're taking at the end of drafts. You're hoping that are like boom or bust, but you're hoping they boom. And so you love alliteration, Josh. So you've put a little different spin on it this year. We're still doing 4 categories. We're still doing Favre players in each of the Favre categories, but what do we got this year?
So we've got the Favre Bs of drafts. So similar to the 5 Ds of dodgeball, this is the Favre Bs of drafts. The bums, the babes, the bots, the buttes. The bums are the guys you don't want in the top 36. The babes are the ones they'll take 1 round ahead of their draft position. The bots are the ones that you're just avoiding. The buttes are the league winners after round 10.
All right, we got some bubs, some babes, some bums, some babes, some bots, and some buttes. We've got our spreadsheet open. We've got the ADP listed here based on Sleeper's Redraft PPR ADP, just so everyone knows. But and then this is as of July 13th. Not that anyone cares. It's 2 weeks ago, but how many people are doing redrafts in July? Yeah, no. Josh is messing with the spreadsheet right now, and he's ruining everything. Anyways, all right, Josh. Do you want me to go first? Do you want you to go first? Do you just want to sit here and go every other? Or do you want to naturally go down the ADP, and then, maybe you'll have a couple in a row just based on how the ADP goes? Or how do you want to do this?
Let's just, I like that one. Let's do natural.
Let's just go natural.
Or down
ADP.
down the ADP.
All right, well, going down the ADP with the roughly redraft PPR ADP of 4.8, Austin Eckler. He's going the 4th player off the board. I've got Austin Eckler as a bum. Not because Austin Eckler's bad. Not because I hate the Chargers. My documented love of the Chargers could not run truer through this podcast. It is very clear I am a Chargers fan. However, taking Austin Eckler 4th overall, the dude had 20 touchdowns last year. That's a lot of fucking touchdowns. I expect some regression. I love Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler was going at the end of round 1 last year, and he became a great value because he got so many touchdowns. I would very happily take Austin Eckler pick 8, pick 9, pick 10. Taking Austin Eckler as the 4th pick off the board, the 4th running back, I can't do it. So therefore, I don't think Austin Eckler will return on his ADP. And so assuming Austin Eckler goes in the top half of drafts or the top half of the first round, I don't want him. So that's why I got Austin Eckler as a bum. And I'd much rather take, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon. I'd rather take those running backs over Austin Eckler.
Speaking of Najee Harris, he is my bum. Not because he's bad, not because I hate him. Had him on my team last year, had a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but they ran him into the ground. I think he had like 400 touches or something ridiculous. Big Ben's gone, so they got the MVP and I don't know, the racist Rudolph, the racist reindeer, and then a rookie as the quarterback.
Ladies and gentlemen,
there's that alliteration for you.
We got him.
But I don't think, and I don't know what they've done to that offensive line that was offensive in the first place. But I just don't see. I mean, if he could stay durable, yeah, he might be worth the 7th overall pick. But I'm not banking on something like that. I think that they need to spell him at some point, and they can't throw the ball because everybody knows that they can't throw it to their team with their quarterback. So I'm going to have him as a bum this season.
All right. So to be clear, so you wouldn't take him at all, even if you slipped into the 2nd round. There's not a point where Najee becomes a value.
I guess you did that for Austin Eckler. I was thinking I should do that too. I mean, if let's say that I was pick 10 of 12 and he fell to me in the 2nd, I'd take him at pick whatever 24 that is. But
24? What?
Nope. 14. 14. 14. There's 24 picks in 2 rounds.
I think it's 15, isn't it?
It's not sure, Gar. I would take him. I would take him there. Maybe even if I was at the turn, I'd take him in my first pick, second round, late first round, or end of the first round in a 12-person league. But
Sure, yeah.
It all depends on how the running back situation shook out beforehand.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, because it looks like, wide receivers are going. I know sometimes wide receivers go pretty early, but wide receivers seem like they're going to go at least that, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, they seem like they're going to go like top 6 picks, depending on what kind of league you're in. So that'll be interesting. But all right, so you had a bum, I have a bum. We're tied for the next bum, so I'll go first since you just shared. We both have Deebo Samuel as a bum. Again, this is a top 36 guy. I understand the appeal. Deebo Samuel helped carry me to the championship game in the Hidden Oaks Redraft League last year. I am a big fan of Deebo Samuel and what he's able to do for me. I don't feel that he is going to return value at a 20 ADP. This is, we're on the second half of the second round, but, I took Deebo Samuel in the 6th, 7th, 8th round last year, maybe the 5th round. And so that's why he was such a good value. We got Trey Lance coming in. He's going to take some running work. And then we also have, can Trey Lance throw the ball well? One of the biggest reports out of camp is that Trey Lance is struggling to deliver the ball to receivers. And I've never been a quarterback, Josh, unless we're counting the Turkey Bowl. I've never been a successful sports player ever in anything I've ever done sports-wise, except for, a lot of people consider bowling a sport. But anyways, if Trey Lance is struggling to throw the ball and if Trey Lance is going to run himself, you're just cratering Deebo Samuel's value. And so I think Deebo Samuel is going to help people on their fantasy team, but he's not going to return value at a 20 ADP. So I am definitely not taking Deebo Samuel in the second round.
Same. No, I agree with everything that
Yes.
I agree with everything you said. He's had one full season of no injuries. He missed the two previous seasons, not full seasons, but he only played like 5 and 8 games. Didn't even play, hasn't played over half a season except for last year, which, is going to help his value quite a bit. I think he was like my lone bright spot in the Deflate These Balls League. And I think during the draft when we started that, 3 years ago now? Yeah, because we're in the third year of the entering the third year after the auction. I think I got him for $1 in the auction draft. So it's he's coming. He has a lot of injury history. If he stays healthy, plays 17 games, then we have to look at what you had said with the quarterback situation, and just repeating what he did because he was pretty historic in what he did last year. So not going to take him at 20.
Yeah, I got him, to be clear, I went back to see the draft board from last year. I took Deebo Samuel at the end of the 6th round last year. So at a 14-man team, 14 times 6, I'm not doing the math in my head. It's a high number. It's not anywhere near 20. So getting Deebo Samuel at the end of the 6th round, a 14-person team, is a lot different than taking him, in the mid to end of the second round, and I just don't think he'll return value. So we each have Deebo Samuel as a bum. Not a bad player, but not worth it for us in the top 36. All right, next I got Javonte Williams as a bum. He's projected at ADP, exactly at ADP 24. He is, so that'd be right at the end of the second round, the turn between the 2-3. Javonte Williams is a good running back. He's a great dynasty asset, but it's pretty clear that when Javonte and Melvin are splitting carries and this and that, Javonte just isn't going to be the fantasy player you want him to be. So I think he's a good asset in Dynasty. I think should Melvin go down, Javonte will be just fine. But I think Melvin Gordon's going to get plenty of carries. If anything, Melvin Gordon was more of the lead back last year. So even if they go from like a 60-40 Melvin last year to a 60 in favor of Javonte this year, Melvin's going to be getting plenty of work in that Denver offense. Plus, they got Russell Wilson now instead of fucking Noah Fant, or not Noah Fant, but what the fuck, Drew Lock, was that his name? So I like Javonte Williams, think he's fine, but I am not taking him at the 2-3 turn, no chance.
Fair. Another guy that I probably wouldn't take at the 2-3 turn. Right after him in ADP, we got Leonard Fournette, or Lunchtime Lenny, as they're calling him nowadays. He is, I'm apparently reported into camp 30 pounds over what he played at. Granted, he's probably lost weight, and it's a lot of the off-season media stuff. But I don't know. I just haven't necessarily been a fan. I don't think that, I might, he might be a good pick at that if all of the running backs ahead of him had already been taken. But I don't like, I would rather take a flyer on a different guy like well, Keenan Allen would still be available. I'd much rather take him over Leonard Fournette, even if it would be my third wide receiver already, and I only had one running back. So I don't know. Not a big fan of Fournette. Wasn't last year, and he did fine, but still not.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I know we're not really doing a bunch of retorts for each other. For the record, I won't sit here and get into it, but I actually like Lenny. So I would take Lenny at the 2-3 turn. I would have no problem doing that myself, just for a little counter take, but we don't have to sit here and fight about it. Right next to, we picked a lot of bums right in a row here, kind of more at the end of the first 3 rounds, but bum, I don't like A.J. Brown. Obviously, good receiver, talented receiver. There's just a lot of question marks for me in Philly. Jalen Hurts isn't a bad quarterback. How good is he going to be? We've seen really good receivers go to different situations and just not have that same chemistry. Not saying that Jalen Hurts isn't significantly better than Daniel Jones, but Kenny Golladay going into New York last year with Daniel Jones, Kenny Golladay absolutely dis-fucking-peered. So I'm not saying that A.J. Brown's going to have the exact same situation, but to me, A.J. Brown is just way too uncertain for a beginning of the third round pick. So I'm not saying A.J. Brown's going to do bad. I'm way too worried when I'm taking picks up here at the top 3 rounds. I want much more sure things than anything. And so AJ Brown to me is not a sure thing. And so I will be avoiding AJ Brown, at the 2-3 turn.
Very next pick in the ADP. I agree with what you had said, him switching teams. Now, if he was still on the same team and he was in that ADP, I would say you're crazy, because him and Tannehill did have a good connection when he was healthy.
For sure.
But moving on to the very next pick in the ADP, 27 overall, roughly, beginning of the third round, we've got Kyle Pitts, who at this point I think is the second or third tight end off the board. Did he even play last year? Like, I don't remember him doing anything in fantasy. He might have had a couple good relevant games. While I'm talking, if you want to look it up, tell me where he finished, you can. But I mean, I'm looking at some of the tight ends, around after him: Darren Waller, George Kittle, T.J. Hawkinson. I'd rather have them over Kyle Pitts. And T.J. Hawkinson is almost a full 20 picks after him. So I'm not a big fan. Marcus Mariota as QB versus Matt Ryan probably factors into that quite a bit. I don't think Mariota is going to get him the ball as much as Matt Ryan would have. So, Gar, did you find anything? How did he finish last year?
Yeah, no. He finished in full PPR. He finished as the tight end 6. In standard scoring, he finished as the tight end 9. He had 110 targets, 68 receptions, over 1,000 yards. So that's little like 9.3 yards per target. Yards per catch was 15. The biggest knock on Kyle Pitts last year is he only had 1 touchdown. So that's kind of what really held him back from breaking into that. Probably with 4 or 5 touchdowns, he probably would have been tight end 3. And so that's just the biggest thing, is that he did not have the touchdowns last year. So I like Kyle Pitts personally. I'm not going to sit here and break down everything what you said, but I would be very happy taking Kyle Pitts in the third round. I think he's going to be, he's a top 2 receiver on that team. So even if it is Marcus Mariota throwing, like Marcus Mariota, Delaney Walker was a valuable fantasy asset when, Marcus Mariota was throwing the rock in Tennessee. So I personally like Kyle Pitts, but I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of uncertainty there, but I think the floor for Kyle Pitts is pretty safe, considering he's probably the best receiving option on that team.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, if he were to fall to like the end of the third, late mid, yeah, I'd probably take him. But I just don't want to waste. I guess I have a bad taste in my mouth after taking Darren Waller last year early. So maybe it's just that.
Yeah, you did that. You hated that pick immediately too. You went full tilt. I think someone sniped your guy right before, and you're like, God damn it! And then that was the demise of your fantasy season right there. But so that's all 4 of our bums each. We both had Favre bums. Again, I had Austin Eckler, Deebo Samuel, Javonte Williams, and AJ Brown. Josh, your 4 bums were
Najee Harris, Deebo Samuel, Leonard Fournette, and Kyle Pitts.
All right, there we go. So if you guys care about what we think, which you should, because we're the greatest fantasy players on the planet, avoid those guys in the top 36 in your drafts. Moving on.
Undefeated in 2022.
That's true. Moving on, we're going to have some bots and some babes intermingled here. So these are guys between rounds like 4 and 8, 4 and 10, who we're either going to reach for or we're going to avoid. So babes are players we'd reach for, would take at least a round before their ADP, and bots are players we're avoiding in the mid rounds. So Josh, we're again tied for a bot. I'll let you go first this time.
Yeah, Travis at ETN, Jacksonville running back. In case you guys didn't know, because he didn't touch the ball at all last year. Currently projected at 46 overall, around middle of round or near the end of round 4. I see a lot of names after him that I'd much rather have on my team. Granted, he's supposed to be a good receiving threat, but until we see it on the field, I'm not going to waste it on a guy who spent the entire season rehabbing a Lisfranc or Achilles. I don't even remember. So bot.
I think it was Achilles. I mean, I guess I wasn't sitting here looking down the list and going, there's a bunch of guys I like over him. I just looked at Travis Etienne and Vac, and I'm like, this is not, like, obviously we all remember what Urban Meyer was the guy last year, and that whole organization, or I shouldn't say that whole organization, but that whole, admin staff and that whole coaching staff, that's who took Travis Etienne, and so now it's Doug Peterson and Doug Peterson's staff, and so this is only in his second year, Travis Etienne has a completely different staff than who drafted him, and so if we're talking at the end of the 5th round, I still don't, there's just way too much, end of the 4th round, beginning of the 5th round, there's still just way too much uncertainty for me to be comfortable with. So for that reason, I would not be touching Travis Etienne, just because he's never played in the NFL. He got hurt in his rookie year, and then he was out the whole rookie year. As I remember, maybe he had 1 or 2 games in there. I don't even recall, but way too much uncertainty for me. I am just fading Travis Etienne. Someone might make a chance, and Travis Etienne could be a league winner. I will not take that chance.
Yeah. Moving on. So at kind of right at the beginning of the 5th round, somebody I would take, and this is someone I'd take, early 4th, potentially, if I didn't like anybody else on the board, but Michael Pittman, wide receiver for Indianapolis. He's got a new quarterback coming in, someone with a little bit more accuracy, who's used to throwing the ball at the big body Julio. Matt Ryan came into town, so instantly I think that improved his value. When I was looking at the wrong timeline of people, he was actually, I'm trying to find it, numbered, he was 58 back in May. Now he's 48, so he's already rising the boards. So we'll just pretend he's still at 58 because then it's an even better value. But yeah, I would take him over guys like Deontay Johnson, who has, like I said, the racist reindeer as a QB. Terry McLaurin has Carl Wentz coming in. And guys like Darren Waller, who already burned me. So I'd take him over those guys who are about a round ahead of him in the ADP.
Gotcha. And to be clear, I know I heard you, the fans heard me crack it earlier, but I'm sitting here sipping on an Arnie Palm. And I got some Welch's Island fruit snacks, so I just want to brag.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, brag about it.
Mm-hmm.
Guy over here.
I also wanted to talk a little bit, just because you're going to have 2 players in a row here, so I don't feel like you'd be doing so much talking concurrently or consecutively, so I just wanted to break it up, and then you can talk about your next babe.
Yeah, but we'll just say that this is the intermission because you're over there eating fruit snacks, and I've been on a mashed potatoes diet. I've had 15 freaking bags of Idaho instant mashed potatoes since last Thursday because of the stupid skin graft.
Yeah, you didn't even talk about that at the top of the show. We didn't do a how you doing.
Nope. Going in tomorrow morning because there was a tear, and then last night I was eating dinner. I felt something fall out. Sure enough, the graft fell off, so now I'm going in tomorrow. I've got 4 stitches in my mouth doing nothing, so it's just like... But yeah, my next babe, quarterback, Joey B. This is just for Micah. I really have no reason other than Micah's cool. So Joey B., middle of the 5th round. He's a babe.
So, but to be clear, if you're saying he's a babe, you would take him the middle of the 4th round? Because this is players you take 12 picks ahead of their ADP. So you'd take Joe Burrow in the 4th? Did I? Hello?
You broke me. Yeah. I wrote the rules and I still disobeyed because I was just looking at, like I was saying, I would take him around the same time as Justin Herbert. Which is the beginning of the 4th round. So, yeah, sure.
Okay. You literally wrote the rules. Okay. All right. Well, my next babe, because so this player's at an ADP of 55.2. That means they'd be going around the mid of round 5. I'd happily take them in the 4th round. I'm talking running back Elijah Mitchell. We've already seen, I don't want to say elite ceiling out of Elijah Mitchell because that's probably being overly dramatic, but we've seen that when Elijah Mitchell is healthy, Shanahan out there in San Fran is not afraid to make him the guy. So this is more of a boom-bust play. Like I said, Travis Etienne could be. So there's not as much certainty with Elijah Mitchell. There's not any certainty with 49ers running backs, but this is a high upside play with Elijah Mitchell, and I'd be happy to make it the fourth round just because it's already been proven that it's possible. With Travis Etienne, nothing's been proven. With Elijah Mitchell, I'd very happily take him in the fourth round because I've seen what he can do in San Fran. So that's why I like Elijah as a babe and be happy to reach on him.
Yeah. I'll try and vent some. Or your turn, Gar.
Nailed it. All right, I got a bot here next. This is at ADP 60. That's going to be, right at the end of the sixth round, or end of the fifth round, beginning of the sixth round. Math can be hard sometimes, but I don't like Marquise Brown. Hollywood Brown traded from the Baltimore Ravens to the Arizona Cardinals. Even in the air raid offense, I just think there's too many mouths to feed. Like, were any Arizona receivers like really that coveted last year? Like, I feel like if ever I could be, this is all off memory. I didn't look up any stats, so maybe I'm being bad right now. But I don't think DeAndre Hopkins impressed. I don't think Christian Kirk impressed. I don't think Rondale Moore impressed. I don't think Zach Ertz impressed. Like, was anyone out in Arizona that was catching balls last year, were any of them impressive? I don't think so. And so now you're adding another mouth to feed, even though Christian Kirk's gone, got that big Jaguar contract. But I have no faith in Marquise Brown being a good fantasy asset, so I think it's a bot. I'm avoiding him.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins was wide receiver 45 last year.
Yeah, so boo.
He only played 10 games.
Still boo.
In the 10 games he played, he was wide receiver 1.
That's not true.
No, it's not. You're right. But yeah, so no, I agree that I was going to put him down, but we had a lot of overlaps already. I do think that the only reason they traded for him was because he can read better than Kyler.
Someone's got to teach him.
Run that joke into the ground.
It's like Hector Zeroni.
So,
getting,
with the name like
Stanley Yelnats over there teaching Hector Zeroni how to read. That's what's happening right now.
With a name like Marquise, you got to learn how to read pretty early if you want to write your name down.
So what
Kyler's
you're telling me
name was probably Tyler growing up.
So Kyler Murray is really good at digging 5-foot holes then.
Yeah, I don't know how he'd get out of them, but yeah.
Hey, Hector Zeroni was pretty short too. Anyways, we don't have to sit here and keep making holes references. I had Marquise Brown as a bot. Hollywood Brown, I'm avoiding at the end of round 5, beginning of round 6. Josh, you've got a babe. Who is it and why?
So with the very next kind of in the ADP, 61, 62, early 6th round, Allen Robinson, who last year was being drafted around the 3rd round, 4th round in some leagues. I would definitely take him in the 5th round with a new quarterback in Matt Stafford. He's one of those wideouts that switches teams, and I think he could have an immediate impact because Cooper Kupp's going to be stealing some targets. Van Jefferson's going to be humming along the sidelines with his speed. I think Allen Robinson as a possession receiver is going to do just fine there. He burnt me last year, so I shame on me, or fool me once, shame on you. Can't get fooled twice.
Nailed it, George Bush. Thank you, W.
But I definitely think that he's going to have kind of a bounce back year. Rumor has it that Justin Fields was told to throw the ball at the ground, and if he could hit it, they wouldn't have to run. And that team is still running as the ball hits orbit. I have him as a babe going into somewhere, or I would take him around the 5th round.
All right, Josh, I'll sit here and interrupt you for just a second because you'll be talking twice in a row, but you've got a bot next, and this is a bot I'm surprised to see because I thought about making this player a babe. You obviously have no faith in the 30 for 30 throwing the rock to this guy, but who's your bot, Josh, and why?
Michael Thomas, coming off of what should have been a 6-game injury that ended up being a full season, and then some rumor says he wasn't fully ready yet. I don't know. It just seems a little odd. But then they got, like you said, they got Crab Legs himself tossing the rock. So odds are, he may get some receptions if he's throwing it to the other guy and it goes to Michael Thomas. But I wouldn't see myself taking him around the 6th round. Now, if he fell to like the 8th round, maybe. Yeah, I'd take a shot at it.
All right, let it be known on the pod last year. I know it was either a preseason pod or maybe this exact pod last year. I said Michael Thomas would not take a snap in the year 2021 or in the 2021 season. I was 100% correct. I knew that shit. So I just want to give myself some credit because I deserve it. But yeah, you've got Michael Thomas as a bot. I'm not afraid of Michael Thomas. Maybe this mid 6th round is a little too early for me, but end of the 6th, mid-7th, I'd take him. I'm not completely avoiding him in the drafts, I don't think. But I'm up next. I've got a babe. I like A.J. Dillon. Obviously, we've seen what he could do last year. Aaron Jones is a force to be reckoned with, so this is another high upside play for me. If Aaron Jones is healthy 17 games this year, A.J. Dillon is not going to be that great of a fantasy asset. He'll probably sit on your bench unless you're like in bye week woes. If Aaron Jones goes down, A.J. Dillon, I think, instantly becomes like a top 10 running back. So that's what this play is for me. I would happily reach on A.J. Dillon in the mid of the 5th round because it's just such a high upside play. Well, that's what I like him for, Josh. Why you reached on A.J. Dillon? You packer?
I mean, the quadacy. I mean, come on. Although at Lambeau Field, he did almost get arrested by a cop who didn't know who he was, which is kind of funny. But like you said, he's shown what he can do when he has the lead. I think that running 2-back sets is going to be a little bit more common now that there's literally no pass catchers on the field except for Aaron Jones. So they might split him out and have AJ have that kind of run pass option. But I mean, durability of Jones is not necessarily a concern, but it is something that, keep an eye out. I don't think he's played a full season, but everybody gets nicks and bruises here and there. And so there's just, I do like his upside. I think that even with Jones playing, he'd still have value. And I'm not just saying that because he's my second running back in the best ball league. But yeah, so I do like A.J. Dillon, and I'd definitely take him. I've already talked about over some guys, but I'd take him over CEH in a heartbeat.
I'd take him over Miles Sanders 3 times, dude. I've avoided Miles Sanders for 3 years. I don't understand how Miles Sanders keeps getting drafted. You think his ADP would just plummet because he's such a disappointment, but...
So Nikita took him last year, I think, at like round 2 or round 3.
I know I said something at the draft. It was like, Nikita, what are you doing?
And that was her Darren Waller pick. That was her like instant regret where something was sniped right before her pick.
Gotcha. So it was more of a tilt pick. Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. Well, we had the same babe there in AJ Dillon. Now we have the same bot. I guess I don't even know how spicy these takes are at this point. We didn't really do a spicy meter for any of these, but at ADP 75.2, that would be kind of the first half of round 7 if you're in a 12-man league. This is tight end Dallas Goedert. If you want to go ahead and look at historical data, to be a really good tight end, you have to be either the number 1 or the number 2 in target share on your team. In Philadelphia, there is now Devontae Smith and the guy we talked about earlier, A.J. Brown. So I'm already uncertain about Jalen Hurts myself. He's a fine fantasy quarterback, but that doesn't mean he's going to have a great supporting cast. So if you have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith ahead of Dallas Goedert in the pecking order, I don't want Dallas Goedert in round 7. No chance. I would maybe take Dallas Goedert round 11, but definitely not in round 7. So I'm not taking Dallas Goedert. That's why I hate him. Why do you hate him, Josh?
Pretty much the same reason. A lot of mouths to feed, and they don't throw the ball enough to warrant taking him in the early 7th. He finished as tight end 10 last year in PPR, I believe, or no, it's standard. So it's not like, I wouldn't take him I don't think he's a tight end 10. I think that he got lucky in the situation and now his target share is going to drop. So I wouldn't take him.
And I say this as a guy who owns Dallas Goedert in my Hidden Oaks Tanking Dynasty League. Like I drafted Dallas Goedert as a rookie, and I really liked him. And I'm disappointed that I have to be calling him a bot here. But yeah, Dallas Goedert is not, I don't think, a valuable asset at this time. But if you're in my Dynasty League, you didn't hear me say that, and I love Dallas Goedert, and you should trade me a second-round pick for him.
No, I mean, I have him in the Deflate These Balls League. He's my backup tight end, so I'm not too upset about it. I'll sometimes.
Oh, it's a backup. That's fine.
I'll sometimes toss him in the flex if I need to, but yeah, him. He's got some potential in there. It's just his quarterback situation hasn't always been the prettiest.
All right, moving on. At ADP 81.1, that's kind of the back half of round 7. This is a babe, Rashad Bateman. I would happily take Rashad Bateman in the 6th round. Hollywood Brown gets shipped out of town. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens are not known for throwing a lot of passes. When they do throw passes, they're going to either Mark Andrews or the wide receiver 1, with Hollywood Brown at Rashad Bateman is that wide receiver 1, so I would happily take Rashad Bateman. The opportunity for success is there. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I believe this to be a very high upside play, and so that's why I would happily reach on Rashad Bateman, who is currently going second half of the 7th round. I would happily take him early to mid 6th round. That would be no problem for me. I like Rashad Bateman. He's a babe for me.
Did I already do my 4 babes, or did I? Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, no, I agree with that. He was one of the ones I was toying with. But going on to my, I believe, final bot, end of the 7th round, late mid, running back Cordarrelle Patterson. I know last year he came out as a shock with his dual eligibility, running back, wide receiver. He could have been a league winner for some people, but I don't think that he's going to be able to repeat that value. A lot of it was no film on what he was doing. He had Matt Ryan. They had the new shiny toy in Kyle Pitts. Todd Gurley was still technically on the roster, so maybe people were afraid of him. But no, I'm just kidding about that last part, by the way. I think
Todd Gurley's dead.
Yeah, probably. I just don't see myself taking him at the 7th round. If he fell to the 9th round, 10th round, probably, because at that point I probably only have one running back. But yeah.
Is Keyshawn still available? All right, yeah, I would agree. Even Cordarrelle Patterson, I think his ADP is more fair than I expected to be on this list. Like I thought Cordarrelle Patterson would be like a round 4, 5, 6 guy. To see him all the way down here at like the beginning of the 8th round, end of the 7th round, I think that's a fair ADP. I still would not be touching him though. My last spot, Josh, is going to be Gabriel Davis. This one has been another player who's kind of been making the rounds in like kind of the dead offseason here, the dead days of summer. Gabriel Davis has been a high talking point because some players or some people are really heavily investing because Gabriel Davis has flashed when he's had opportunity in Buffalo, but I think Gabriel Davis is way overhyped. I hate Gabriel Davis. I will not be touching him even at an ADP of, beginning of the 8th round. I don't like it. I'm avoiding him. I don't know if this is one of those, like, I forget who was one of the most controversial players in fantasy last year, but Gabriel Davis is going to be one of the most controversial players in fantasy this year. What do you think about him?
I honestly don't know enough. He has a very generic name, and he plays for a very generic football team with a lot of mouths to feed at that receiver position already, I guess with Beasley gone. Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't. I agree that I don't want to take him in the 8th round, but I'd have to do a deep dive on the research first.
All right. Speaking of giving a deep dive, would you like to? So I'm looking up some numbers here real quick for Walter's comment in the chat. But Josh, Walter's asked you, how many Packers wide receivers are you targeting?
Well, I mean, it depends on where he's going to provide this list. Is he going to give it to the FBI? Is he going to give it to social services? What?
Targeting.
Dawson Knox or Gabe Davis?
Dawson Knox.
Yeah, that's a little easy. But as far as how many Packers wide receivers I'm targeting, 7, I think, are going into camp, so I'll target 6.
Which one are you avoiding then? Sammy
Don't
Watkins?
talk about it.
Okay.
But anyways, Sammy Watkins thinks he's a lizard, so...
Sure. Anyways, in the chat, Walter's also put Babe, MVS, Bot, Amari Cooper. So to be clear, Walters, I'm sure you wouldn't disagree with this, but you're saying MVS is a Babe, so you take him at least a round ahead of his ADP. MVS is now famously a wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is going at the back end of the 11th round with an ADP of 130. So that's MVS, and then I have to look up Amari Cooper here real quick, see what his ADP is. Amari Cooper, or nope, that's Amari Rodgers. Jesus. There's more than one Amari.
Amari Cooper is ADP 51.
Yeah, 51.3. So you're saying you're not taking Amari Cooper in the 5th round, which, I mean, I think that's fair. Some people want to avoid him. It kind of really does depend on the Deshaun Watson situation. If Deshaun Watson only gets a 6-game suspension, I wouldn't be afraid to put Amari Cooper in my back pocket in the 5th round. Just like I wouldn't be afraid to put Alvin Kamara in my back pocket in like the 2nd round. Because I mean, what you really care about is, the championship weeks. Like you want to win games early just to rack up wins, but what really matters is those later weeks in fantasy. So I would not call Amari Cooper a bot, and I would not call MVS a babe. But those are Walter's opinions. Josh, how do you feel about them?
Indifferent. I feel like both of those are kind of fair evaluations for where they're at.
Okay. All right, Walters. Josh just nothing to you. Josh was full of apathy for you. But we'll move on to kind of the last section here. Oh, do I have one more babe? Oh, God, I have one more babe. So I have Gabe Davis as a bot. And then way down here is a babe. We were talking about Javonte Williams earlier. Melvin Gordon in this actually genuinely shocked me. Currently at ADP 104. This is like the back half of the 9th round. Why is Melvin Gordon going so much later? Like, Melvin Gordon's stats were absolutely fine last year. Like, Melvin Gordon was a good tandem punch with Javonte Williams. Why Melvin Gordon is going so much further down ADP, that's crazy. So Melvin Gordon is going at the back half of the 9th round, and we're saying a babe is someone we'd take 12 picks ahead. I would take Melvin Gordon in the 6th round. Like that, I would take him 3 rounds ahead of what his ADP is right now. If I can get the value of Melvin Gordon in the 8th round, absolutely. But I wouldn't be afraid to take Melvin Gordon in the 6th. Like, I am that confident Melvin Gordon's going to do good again in Denver. So why his ADP is so fucking low, I don't know. But this is a list we were provided. And so at an ADP of 104, I am smashing Melvin Gordon as a babe, dude. I would take him rounds ahead of that. This is the part where maybe you say something? Even just acknowledgement of existence?
Yeah, no, good. I'm happy you made that statement. I disagree, though.
You disagree? I mean, well, let's hear why.
Not necessarily with all of it. I was just trying to figure out what I could say.
You just wanted to disagree for the...
No, I don't agree with the people who are fading him. I do think he did fine for the role he was given. He finished the season as RB22, which, it's not the best, not the worst. And so it kind of puts
not bad
him around...
enough to go in the 9th round.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. But when you look at the RB22, would you take him over AJ Dillon?
No.
Would you take him over Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Yes.
Would you take him over me?
Yes.
Okay, well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is trash, so that makes sense. But what about like Damian Harris?
Yeah, I'd take him over Damian Harris.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's one of those weird players, and I think that a lot of the reason why he's getting faded even further is because they're saying Javonte Williams is going to be more of a 3-down back this season, coming off of a rookie year, and then he has Russell Wilson there, so that he might throw the ball more. So that might be why he's getting faded. I don't know. I'd take him at the 9th round pretty fast, but I probably wouldn't reach up, full round ahead like we would with the babes.
Interesting. Okay. Walter's put in the chat, any Buffalo RB or Melvin. I mean, James Cook, I think, is a high upside play. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss have proved themselves to be worthless as far as fantasy goes. So I would take a Melvin over James Cook, but I think James Cook is the best high upside one to have out of Buffalo. But we'll move on to our buttes here, Josh.
Devin Singletary finished higher last season than Melvin Gordon.
That's fine. Still doesn't mean I want to start him in fantasy.
Yeah.
Anywho, and that's kind of like another one of those high upside things. Like I'm not sitting here trying to will Javonte Williams to go down, but like Devin Singletary was kind of at his ceiling last year. Whereas if Javonte Williams goes down, Melvin Gordon's ceiling is so much higher, just like AJ Dillon's. I guess is
Fair.
my point.
Yep.
It's a high upside. It's a high upside play. But moving on to our buttes here. This is our last category of Bs. We've got 5 players each, and to be clear, our buttes are league winners after round 10. My first butte, I love him. Give me some Kirk Cousins. I mean, we're not going full Rams. I don't expect Kirk Cousins to be like an elite quarterback, but he's been the QB1 forever. Not forever, that's a lie, but definitely consistently the last couple of years. I have no reason to think Kirk Cousins will have any sort of regression now with an offensive-minded head coach in Kevin O'Connell and some more stability in that offensive system. So, I mean, in round 11, I think Kirk Cousins is a great value pick. And in a lot of leagues, you can probably get him a lot later than that, just because QBs do get pushed down so far in redraft leagues, so especially with experienced redraft players. So I think Kirk Cousins is a steal after round 10, and so I'll be smashing Kirk Cousins wherever I can. I think he's a beaut.
You're lucky this is in a fantasy stake growing league, but my first Butte, almost 2 rounds after or 1.5 full rounds after his or Kirk Cousins' ADP, we've got running back for the Houston Texans, Marlon Mack. I know that you've always been a big fan, and I've always kind of faded running backs off the Achilles tear. He's a year and a half now, 2 years fully healed. Last season, they gave him some reps. I didn't get to watch him, so I couldn't tell you how he is. But if you're taking if you're playing in a league where you draft 15, 16 spots, typically, kickers and defenses the last 2 rounds, unless you're going for a top tier kicker or a top tier defense. But if this is going to be your last skill player, not a bad call taking Marlon Mack in the 13th. I would say, for his, new team, new situation, they don't have much of a running back. Davis Mills is, a giraffe at the quarterback, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for him.
Yeah, no, Marlon Mack, as it stands right now, of course, this is July. As it stands right now, Marlon Mack is projected to be the starting running back in Houston. Not that Houston's a super high upside team, but to get a starting running back in round 13, that's nuts. Like I wanted to put Marlon Mack as a Butte, but then I stayed away because I think I was trying to go for every position here in the last one. But I'm with you on Marlon Mack. I fully support Marlon Mack in the 13th round. Are you fucking kidding me? And to be clear, players after round 10, these are guys who, if they suck for 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're cutting them. So it's not like drafting him and then seeing what he does for a couple weeks is not a big deal. This is not a season-long commitment. If Marlon Mack flashes like we hope he could early, you keep him, and maybe that's league winner. If Marlon Mack stinks for 3, 4 weeks, cut him. No big deal. It's a 10th round or a 13th round draft pick. Who cares? So I'm with you on Marlon Mack. Going for the same philosophy here. I love Devontae Parker. I've been a Devontae Parker fan. In a points per game basis, when he plays, when he's healthy, Devontae Parker does pretty good, or at least he did down in Miami. And I think a little news flash just came up today that the chemistry between him and him and Mac Jones in New England is evident. And so obviously that's early camp reports. I'm not saying I'm reading too much into it, but that on top of the fact that I already like Devontae Parker in the 13th round, again, like as you're saying, as a last skill player before kickers and defense, if you're still playing in leagues with those, I like a flyer on Devontae Parker, and maybe he turns into something. Maybe you can trade him for something else after 3, 4 weeks. And if he turns into nothing, you can cut him. But I like Devontae Parker as a Butte. I think there's plenty of upside there in the 13th round.
For sure. There's not going to be a whole lot of disagreement with what we're talking about as Buttes because they are so late, like you said, where they could be cut if they suck. But one of my Buttes, somebody who's projected at early 14th round, I have Matt Ryan, quarterback, Indianapolis Colts. Going into a new situation, dominant offensive line, running back that can catch the ball, running back that's going to take stress off the pass game. He's got a big body, Michael Pittman. He's got Mo Alley Cox. He's got Alec Pierce, who's a rookie phenom who's going to be a stud. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But I have Matt Ryan. If you're one of those people who, like Gar has mentioned before in the past, waits till the very end to take a quarterback or a tight end, I like Matt Ryan in the 14th round. If it didn't shake out the way you wanted to get a top tier quarterback in the middle early rounds.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly about Matt Ryan. I'm pretty mad on Matt Ryan, but I wouldn't be afraid to throw a late round flyer on Matt Ryan if I had gone 0 QPU up until that point in a redraft. So I hear what you're saying. Maybe just don't feel as strongly as you do. But we both have the same Butte here. Oh, Matt Ryan or Carson Wentz? Matt Ryan, for sure.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah. I guess I'm not afraid to draft Carson Wentz. Like, between those two options, it's Matt Ryan every time. If Carson Wentz is still on the board and I haven't taken a QB and it's the end of the draft, I'm not fading Carson Wentz, but if the choice is between those two, I'll take Matt Ryan every time. Because if you're taking QB that late, you're just waiting to see how they do, or you're riding the waiver wire. So I will draft Carson Wentz. It's not saying I'm going to keep him for 16 games, so 17 games, whatever it is. But we've got both the same Butte here, Josh. ADP of 167.6. That's start of the 15th round, end of the 14th round. Robert Tonyan. We've seen what big Bobby Tonyan can do when Devontae isn't around. Like, he had that one flash in the pan year, a lot of touchdowns, and then he absolutely burned everyone last year. Both Devontae gone, the opportunities there. I'm obviously not sitting here advocating taking Robert Tonyan in the 8th round. I'm not saying take Robert Tonyan in the 10th round. At the 15th round, at the end of their draft, if you win 0 tight ends, you're just hoping for a flyer, and then you're going to ride the wire. Robert Tonyan's a fine guy to draft and just see if he can do something the first couple weeks. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have the same exact thinking here, but the opportunity is there for Tonyan. He has top 5 potential.
Yes. Yeah, he only played 8 games last year. Didn't do so hot. He got hurt. I'm trying to pull it up, but I can't because phones are slow and fingers are bad. But yeah, in the games that he did play, he didn't do a whole lot. He had some opportunities. He had, I think the most targets he had was 7. But, Devontae was on the team. He only had 2 touchdowns, and then he got hurt. So he's coming back off that ACL tear. And so I do think that it's going to open up for him a lot more. And so I agree. Opportunity.
Right. And then, so I went kind of one of each position. I see we both have the same butte here as well. Maybe I'd go like Logan Thomas or Joshua Palmer or Julio Jones. I'm sure Julio Jones or Roby Anderson Julio Jones specifically will probably shoot up draft boards now because he was just signed, today or yesterday? So I'm just kind of looking at players in this range. But since I wanted to go one of each position here for a sleeper or for a butte, as we're calling him here, Brian Robinson, running back for the Washington Commanders. He's got an ADP of 188.4. That's 16th round. Some fantasy leagues don't even go 16 rounds. So this guy could be undrafted, depending on where you're playing. But I mean, Antonio Gibson's a fine running back. Brian Robinson was drafted on purpose. Brian Robinson is kind of, I think, to me, the upside of Brian Robinson is he's getting goal line work if they're trying to do like beefy jumbo packages. Antonio Gibson, I think, would be like more of a sweep play, more of a he's not a scat back necessarily, but he's more similar to that than like some beefy bruiser who's gonna, he's Brian Robinson's more similar to the Quadisi than something else. So I like Brian Robinson, a high upside play. Again, this is the 16th round player. Brian Robinson will probably go undrafted in a lot of your drafts. But if you want a last skill guy, maybe you win 0 RB and you're just praying for a bunch of lottery tickets at the end, grab Brian Robinson at the end. Let him sit on your bench a couple weeks. See if he does something. Maybe he has a couple touchdowns, and so you can either trade him or, you play him in a pinch. But I think Brian Robinson, again, we're not going to really disagree. These guys are so late, but I think there's plenty of opportunity for Brian Robinson, especially if Gibson goes down. There's J.D. McKissick there, but J.D. McKissick is the third down receiving back. Brian Robinson's the bruiser. So I like Brian Robinson for touchdown upside.
Didn't J.D. McKissick go to a new team?
No, he almost went to Buffalo, but then J.D. McKissick re-signed with the Commanders.
Oh, that's right. I agree. I think I have him in a couple of the dynasty leagues that I'm in. I like his upside. They obviously drafted him for a reason. They drafted him in the 3rd round, so it's not like he was a 17th round draft pick or 7th round draft pick for the team. So they took him, because they wanted him. And so granted, Jacksonville took Travis Etienne in the 1st round. Yeah, so I do like his situation where he is. Obviously, he's a bigger bodied guy, and he's a little bit older. He's 23 already, so he's coming in the league after 5 years in college. But I do think that the goal line work, and if what's his nuts goes down, he has an opportunity to take advantage.
All right, those were Favre buttes, Josh. We've given you Favre bums. All right, let's go through the list one more time here. Just read them off rapid fire. I'll go with my 16 players and you go with your 16 players. My Favre bums were Austin Eckler, Deebo Samuel, Javonte Williams, and A.J. Brown. I'm fading those guys early in drafts. My 4 bots were Travis Etienne, Marquise Brown, Dallas Goedert, and Gabriel Davis. My Favre babes were Elijah Mitchell, A.J. Dillon, oh my God, Rashad Bateman and Melvin Gordon. And my Favre buttes were Kirk Cousins, Devontae Parker, Robert Tonyan, and Brian Robinson. Josh, you're 16?
So we've got for bums, Najee Harris, Deebo Samuel, Leonard Fournette, and Kyle Pitts. For bots, oh no.
Here, I'll make it easy for you.
We got
Just scroll up.
Yep, I got it now. For bots, Travis Etienne, Michael Thomas, Dallas Goedert, and Cordell Patterson. For babes, we've got Michael Pittman, Joe Burrow, Allen Robinson, and A.J. Dillon. And for buttes, we've got Marlon Mack, Matt Ryan, Robert Tonyan, and Brian Robinson. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. My wife made chicken. It smells delicious. I am signing off. Have a great evening, Garlic.
Real quickly, before you abandon me, I just want to talk about our preseason pod schedule. So we're doing Wednesdays, right? For the folks listening, we're doing Wednesdays starting in August. Yes, no, maybe?
for preseason, I believe, yeah, that works. But then we'll have to switch because I have church on Wednesday nights after that.
Right. Anyway, so then August 17th, we'll be back with our first 272. Then August 24th, that's a Wednesday. Does August have 31 days? I don't know. Either way, that Wednesday, either August 31st or September 1st, whichever it is. Yeah, August 31st will be the Hood draft grades after our redraft draft. And then we might switch to Tuesdays or whatever we're doing starting September. But we'll be coming at you a couple Wednesdays starting mid-August. So be ready. Be looking for those, and we appreciate you listening. And football season's almost here. Everyone's in training camp, and shit is fucking crazy, Josh. I hope you go enjoy that beautiful chicken your wife prepared.
Yeah, if I can eat it. She has to blend it first.
Why don't you just baby birdie? Why don't you just have her chew it first and then spit it into your mouth?
No, I could chew it if it's on the right side of my mouth. So I'll probably cut it up into little tiny pieces, put it in there, make sure it gets right in the back of my mouth, and then chew it up a little bit, complain, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore," and then I'll just swallow it anyways.
All right. Thanks for listening, Walters, and thanks for listening to anyone who listens on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, or wherever else you get your podcasts. We'll be coming at you mid-August. We look forward to it. Get in the Discord. Do you have
Yes,
last
we do,
year's draft
Walters.
grades?
I'm not going to read them right now.
All
What
right.
a random time to ask that question.
All right, everybody. Love you. Bye.
Love you.